Connections. For over 200 years, they've been Citi's business. From connecting oceans and continents by helping finance the Panama Canal, to today, where we're still making our most important connections, people. We connect security and innovation, all to help drive growth. Our global scale connects businesses to over 160 markets, and today's ideas with tomorrow's opportunities. For the love of moving businesses forward, for the love of progress, Citi.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to PaleyFest's Fall TV Previews. I'm Breanne Heldman. I'm the Senior Editor of TV at People Magazine, and I'm so excited to be your host for this special conversation celebrating Netflix's Emmy-nominated hit series, Love is Blind. Love is Blind returns for its 5th season on Friday, September 22nd, following a whole new group of singles in Houston looking for love, maybe getting married. We'll see. Thank you to Citi, the festival's official card and official sponsor, for their help in making this event possible. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome members of the creative team from Love is Blind, creator and executive producer Chris Coelen, and executive producer Simpson. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having us.
So it is an absolute point of pride for me that back in 2020, at the very, very beginning of 2020, I started watching these screeners and I came into the office and I said, this show is going to be huge. And I was obviously right. Here we are. The show is a massive phenomenon. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I have to ask, Chris, what do you think is the special sauce with this experiment? Why does it resonate so well with viewers?
Well, first of all, thank you for being a fan. It's really exciting to have the show received in the way it's been. And I think part of what makes it special to us, to Ali and myself, as well as I hope to the audience, is that it's rooted in universal themes. So very, very common, no matter where you live, no matter what you look like, no matter what you feel like you have or you don't have, everyone wants to be loved for who they are on the inside, right? At the end of the day, especially if you're looking for long-term commitment. And everyone wonders, is who I am enough, right? Mm-hmm. So, and the other thing I think that makes it universally relatable is we all struggle with the devices and the technology, the dating apps that are supposed to connect us today, and yet it sort of feels very shallow to a lot of people. So I think those are themes that make the show universally relatable and accessible, and then on top of that, it's real. It's very, very real. It's not contrived in any way. It's not produced or manipulated. It's extremely high stakes for the participants. Basically we set up the machinery of the format, and then whatever happens. It is an authentic journey for the participants. We do not try in any way. It's one of the hardest things Ali and I talk about all the time. One of the hardest things is to not step in, to not influence their choices or decisions in any way. But because of that, we're always surprised. We're always surprised when we're in the field. We're always surprised when we're in post, because obviously human beings, just by their nature, have so many unique wrinkles, and the stories that they live through, the journeys that they have are wildly unpredictable. And I think the last thing I would say is that we really try hard to portray every person and every relationship on the show in a very three-dimensional, realistic, complex way. And we try to portray the accurate essence of their story in as full a way as it's possible to do in a relatively short form television series. And that includes hopes, fears, strengths, weaknesses, insecurities, triumphs, every facet of these people. And we try not to judge. And there are several examples of this, which I won't get into right now, but where we we try really hard to just let people speak their piece and live their stories, and we don't judge. And it's really fun and fascinating for us to see the audience engage in a conversation around that. And, sometimes having very different views and very different perceptions on the story that's playing out. That's really incredible to see.
Absolutely. So, Allie, I want to ask you, I mean, what do you think it is about this show that makes it stand out from all the dating shows out there?
I think it's completely different from really any other dating show out there. It ends in legally binding weddings, so the stakes are very high from the start. But when you even think from a production standpoint, it's a combination of the pods are a stage show, and then there's an international getaway, and then we have a docu-follow portion when they're at home in the real world, and then we can produce up to 5 weddings. And so it's a massive undertaking just from a production standpoint. But I do think, and Chris has touched on this, I think it's really the heart that's at the core of the show. And that heart exists because the emotions are so real. And we find it's fun for us to watch. I think the participants are actually always surprised by what Chris mentioned, our hands-off approach to producing. And so the hands-off approach to producing, and then almost the therapeutic effect that the pods has, it really, that's the combination that gets these emotions to be so real and the stakes so high, because they get there and they don't always anticipate or expect the therapeutic effect of the pods, and that the emotions right out of the gate are so real. And so then throughout the entire experiment, the stakes are higher because the emotions are real. And I think there's more of that throughout the entire series than you see on most other relationship shows.
Yeah, I agree with that. So Chris, talk to me a little bit about how you came up with the concept of the pods and what the rules would be and how they would be structured.
The pods were really meant to be a comfortable space where people could just be themselves. And if this is an experiment that's about getting to know someone for who they are on the inside, it's got to be a place that you can be yourself, that you're not distracted by the outside. It's probably a little dark, a little cozy, a little, but you have access to whatever you want. You have food and you have drink and whatever makes you can lie down, and you have a blanket and pillows, and and yet we wanted people to be alone in there, not to have any producers or anyone, would just be there alone. And we wanted any cameras that were in there to be very unobtrusive. And we wanted, but at the same time, we wanted them to feel a presence of the other person, the person they're talking to. And that's where the moving wall comes from. Was to one point we thought, it'd be cool to kind of see someone's shadow, but then we thought that'll give away size or shape or movement. So just this movement that happens, and they speak to each other through speakers, and that's where the sound comes from as well. So, and that's where the other person is sat. It's just on the other side of that, in that direction. And so they can really almost feel the presence of the other person without actually seeing them or touching them.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned the laying down. So I have to ask, what was it like in the control room when you watched Tiffany fall asleep as Brett was pouring his heart out?
I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. Allie and I sit right next to each other in the control room, and we're always, there's how many cameras are there, Allie? Like 89 cameras or something. And so everybody's, and we have a big team, and everybody's watching different things. And Allie will say, "Oh, look at this," or I'll say, "Oh, look at that." And you can't believe the things that happen. That was an incredible moment. I remember watching, Micah and Irina, as they were, overhearing, and we're like, what is going on? Well, then over here, Paul and Amber are, or he's awkwardly trying to break up. I mean, there's the things that just unfold, or watching Andrew, put his eye drops in his eye.
I mean, that was an epic. That's going to be an iconic reality TV moment.
It's just, I mean, the things that you just see unfolding in front of you are crazy. And again, that's the exciting thing about the show, is that you just let it happen, and crazy, unpredictable things happen all the time.
So is there something that we've seen that was one of those moments that was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, that surprised you guys? Allie?
Oh, it's endless. It's such a pleasure for us to get to spend time in the pods, because as storytellers, it's just kind of a dream to watch. We get attached to the people. We want them to find love. And so it's fun we never get it right at the beginning when we think about who might end up together. And so every day is such a journey. It's almost like trying to pick a favorite child, because there are so many moments that it's a blast every day getting to watch the pods unfold. Tiffany falling asleep was fantastic. And there's a moment in season 5, no spoilers, but there's a moment in season 5 that's pretty spectacular. So.
And I would say that not to jump too far ahead, but we love the pods. We love being in the pods. We love the magic that happens in the pods, the emotion that happens in the pods. And we're really excited. Allie sort of teased slightly to season 5, but we spend more time in the pods in season 5 than we've ever done. And I think that's really exciting for us as storytellers, because that's where all of these relationships form. That's where the love happens, and so to truly understand that and really be able to, get inside of that and those feelings and who these people are and why they feel the way they do about each other is a really exciting opportunity for us.
Well, I'm very excited to spend more time in the pods. I've often felt like I wanted more, and I wanted to see some more of the dates that don't end up panning out or sometimes turn into friendships, which is a big theme on the show that I always find really remarkable, especially when we go back to After the Altar and we see these couples have been on vacation together, and these bonds get formed that go beyond these marriages and beyond these romantic relationships. Allie, can you talk about a little bit about how some of those are fostered?
I always liken it to summer camp. I think if you do anything intense or unique or emotional, when you think about these are the people who are the only people who understand what they're going through. They're the ones there while they're falling in love, or while they're crying, or while they're doing this self-discovery. And so it's a very bonding experience. It simply is. And for us, it's always surprising to see some of the friendships that form. But I think we genuinely want everyone to leave with something. And so our hope is they find a life partner, a spouse. Our hope is that they have a lot of emotional self-discovery. But it's great that they also find friendships.
Absolutely. So when the hopefuls all come in, and by the way, I love that you call them hopefuls. When they come in, what kind of advice are they given as far as the start of those conversations? Are they given any pointers or suggestions for things to ask or kind of starting points?
I think the most important thing that we say, and we say it at all points throughout the entire process of the experiment, is that we will never tell them what to say, what to do, what to think, ever. We will never try to influence them. We want it to be their true journey and to talk about whatever is important and relevant to them. Obviously, they all come in with a stated desire to find a partner. I think most of them are skeptical. I don't think anybody comes in, and I think in casting it would be a red flag if somebody was like, I'm gonna get married for sure, because that just doesn't seem genuine. But I think there is a healthy dose of skepticism. But I think the pods are such an incredible experience because they have permission to talk about things that you would never talk about on a date in the, outside world, on your first date, second date, for your first 6 months. You're talking on your first or second date about, how many kids do you want and how would you raise them? And, what about your religious preferences? And, what about, how do we share, responsibilities if we were a married couple? And Allie and I have spent a lot of time working together on, through lots of relationships on lots of programs. And I feel like, we've learned a lot about what makes relationships work, at least the underpinnings of that. And so we do give them some advice in terms of, you should talk about values. You should talk about what would your home look like? What are your schedules? Things, basic things, and very deep things. What would happen if you couldn't have a child and you wanted to do that? Would you adopt? What happens if your child is, lives a different lifestyle, has a different point of view, is different than the child that you expect? What do you, and what would that look like? And by the way, what would it be to articulate that my child is different than I expected? You saw some of that with, Bartice and Nancy talking about, they talked about the issue of abortion. They talked about, what would happen if your child had Down syndrome. They talked about, they get into, and again, that was relevant to them. Other people talk about other issues, religious issues, or, whatever is. And I think that's what we most importantly advise people on, is figure out, if you're going to get engaged to someone and they fall in love for real in the pods, what is it that you need to know prior to, you got to figure that out for yourself. What do you need to know prior to get engaged? And make sure you talk about that. And if you haven't figured it out, if you haven't asked all the questions, don't get engaged.
Good. I'm glad you're kind of warning them. I do want to talk a bit about the casting process. This question comes from festival sponsor Citi. What are the top things you are looking for when vetting potential candidates for the show and choosing who will make it?
Allie.
One thing Chris and I always say is everyone wants to find love, right? So no matter what intentions you might have, if you're looking for fame or you think it sounds fun, if you fall in love, you fall in love. Everyone wants that. And so that's kind of we're always surprised at how many people, I think you can tell on day one. Chris mentioned how many people are skeptical. And it's sometimes the most skeptical who end up being the ones to find love, to get married. I don't think Alexa thought, I think she flat out said, I was coming to have fun. And she met and someone she probably never would have dated in the real world. And so we want people who we absolutely try to vet people who have, our casting team is great at deciphering it, but at people who really don't seem to exclusively be coming for the social media fame. But again, even those people find love and fall in love, and all it takes is finding the right person. And I think this experiment, it just surprises people.
What are some of the factors that you kind of take into consideration as you are meeting with candidates? Are there certain kind of boxes you're trying to check? Or certain things you want to hear or don't want to hear from a potential person?
Well,
Go ahead, Allie. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that we want to make sure people have viable matches there. And so we give them the opportunity to talk about things that are deal breakers for them, whether it's religion, whether it's age. We will look, and we do extensive work on saying, okay, these are likely based on what they've said, based on their values, based on deal breakers. We want to make sure that there are people who they think are what they're looking for. And so in the mix, we want as broad a range of people as possible, but we also want to make sure that there are enough compatible people. And so it isn't, let's just get the zaniest characters we can find. We want people who are there for the right reason and who have viable matches. So did you have more to add to that, Chris?
Absolutely. And I was just going to add that, obviously there's the factors like you want them to be semi-geographically compatible, because we don't want that to be an obstacle. These are real marriages that people are getting into. And you want them to espouse a genuine desire, if they meet somebody to get married. But also, I think one of the really important priorities, as Allie and I talk about, like what is next, what comes next? How do we continue to improve and evolve this, process, this experiment, this franchise? It's to really seek out and reach out people who, aren't really reached by the kind of outreach that generally happens around a program like this. And we brought on recently Chelsea, who had married Kwame from season 4. She's joined our casting team because she actually approached us about doing that, because she said, look, how did I find out about this? I found out about it. It wasn't online. I wasn't looking for it. Nobody from your team got in touch with me. It was a friend of a friend of a friend told me about it and said, oh, this thing is happening, and it sounds really like something that could be right for you. And here's why. And, Chelsea was like, I want to reach people like me, that aren't like looking for these, but are looking to come in for the right reasons. And so I think that's a huge, priority for us.
Shout out to Chelsea.
Really
I love
cool.
her. And you want to talk about zany characters. Like, I feel like she was so authentically herself throughout from the first second, and she was never putting on airs and never puts on airs. And I'm such a fan of hers. And of Kwame's, of course. And I wonder if there's, stories like Alexa's so beautiful and so confident. And I found watching her so compelling and inspiring. Do you find that you're getting to hear back from people that some of the people that are getting highlighted are really inspiring others to see themselves and to find more confidence in themselves? Allie?
Absolutely. And, I think it's one of my favorite things to do is read when a show's coming, when a new season's coming out, to read all the feedback, whether it's on social media or interviews or directly, we hear back from the cast. So we'll hear stories from Alexa or Chelsea. And of course, it's wonderful when the work that you're doing can reach people and inspire people and give them hope that they too will find love. So yeah, it's one of our favorite things to track and follow.
Awesome. Well, speaking of people finding love on the show, I know that there are often more engagements than you wind up showing. In fact, season 4, I think, had 8 engagements, 3 that weren't shown. How do you decide which 5 get to go off on the dream vacation?
Well, it's not always 5. And it's a great question. We've had on several occasions, on several seasons, we've had 8 engagements actually. And I don't think there's a magic number for us. Generally we feel like probably the most that we can stretch to follow is 6. I mean, maybe we could do 7. Our head of production would probably kill us, but maybe, but I mean, 6 is even a stretch. But at the end of the day, we look at the couples, and again, we spent a lot of time with them in the pods, not with them, but watching them. And we watch them all the way up through the reveal. And Allie and I will talk to one another, talk to the team, solicit some opinions. But generally, the stories we follow are based on who we feel are genuine and most authentic, most genuine. That doesn't mean that everyone is not genuine, but I will say that the couples that and by the way, sometimes we follow a couple for a little while and then we don't feature their story on the show. Sometimes, and it just depends. Again, we want to tell authentic stories, and I will say that none of the couples that we have chosen not to feature on the show has ever ended up together. So I feel like we are somewhat validated in the choices that we've made just based on that.
Have there been things that you have done in previous seasons where you were like, nope, that didn't work, never doing that again? Or something that you tried that you thought was a bit in a more recent season that you thought really worked, that you look forward to doing again?
I'll take the real quick, and then Allie, if you have any other thoughts, but I think the short answer is no. We've tried to be consistent with the experiment the whole time, and we talked about the idea that the hardest thing is to not produce, right? So it's not to throw in a gimmick and not to throw in here's a twist. Like we're incredibly transparent with the cast. Here's what to expect. Here's what to happen. It's what you should anticipate. You're in charge of your destiny. This is what we'd like you to do, which is to confront any issues or objections or opinions once you get out in the real world of people or situations or circumstances that might get in the way of you getting married, and really explore those so that you can feel great about the decision that you make at the end. And I think staying true to that is the thing, and being more and more transparent. If there's anything Allie and I talk about, I feel like season to season, it's like, how can we be even more transparent, and tell them even more. And I think we've done a great job, but we're always getting better and evolving, and yeah.
Cool. Allie, this season is in Houston. We've seen Chicago, Atlanta, Seattle, and Dallas. Sorry. But what is it about those cities, or what are you looking for in a city that makes it right for this kind of a show?
Really, we just want a city that's large enough to have a pool of hopeful singles that aren't going to know each other. So it limits us to some of the larger cities, although we brainstorm constantly, where else can we go, and how do we broaden the circle in that area? As you saw with the Seattle season, Kwame lived in Portland, so we expanded that circle, for that season. But it's really, we want diversity, we want singles that are great catches. But so our casting team does research on the cities. But it's really about size, and we want the show to be something that's relatable to all viewers here in the U.S., but also internationally. And so it's something, the appeal of a city, both here and internationally. And so we talk about it, we discuss it with Netflix, but the hope is we can do this long enough to go everywhere.
I know you guys there have been seasons in Japan and in Brazil. Chris, what are the biggest differences in seeing some of those other seasons from other countries?
Well, it's incredibly exciting to see the show adapted in different territories. And I think what is exciting is that they make the show their own. So it's the core concepts are the same in terms of, again, wanting to be loved for who you are, and and trying to find someone in this different way. But aside from that, it's very uniquely Brazilian or Japanese or wherever they're making it, and in terms of the look of it, in terms of what they talk about. And I think that's great. It's as it should be.
Great. You call it an experiment. So kind of with any experiment, there's success or failure. So what about each season makes it hit that success place? How do you define success for the show?
I think the success of the show, and we actually talked to the participants about this, success of the show is not based on how their journey ends. It's not based on whether they get engaged or whether they get married, or whether like that, for us, success is that they live on the show an authentic journey and make the right decisions for themselves. And we say to them, we don't care if nobody gets married. We don't care if nobody gets engaged. Honestly, if it's not real, if it's real, it's going to be compelling. If it's not real, it's going to be phony, and it's going to be bad for you, and it's going to be bad for the viewers. If it's real, it's good for you, and it's good for the viewers. And, I think, and we really believe that, this is a blip in their lives. It's really exciting for us, but, they live with these decisions, for forever. And so, I think it's incredible to think about the fact that through season 4, the 9 couples that have chosen to get married, that 7 of those couples are still together to this day. That's incredible. That's like way better than the, batting average for, people who do it outside of this experiment.
And Lauren and Cameron and Amber and Matt are going to hit 5 years this year. It's amazing.
They are. And I think there's a reason for that, again, because the process that they go through is very intense, and it puts them through, this process whereby they talk about all of these issues ahead of time and in a really intense way. And most people don't do that. Most people who are married have never done that. And so I think it really prepares them well for making the right decision. And if they do say yes, they tend to stay married. But again, that's not our bar for success. If nobody got married in a season, you know what? As long as it was authentic and compelling, and again, if it's real, it will be compelling to the viewer.
Okay, so I have to ask, is there a contingency plan if no one gets engaged?
No, we would follow the story. I mean, that's I think going into season 1, that was one of the things that, frightened everyone, I think. what happens if nothing happens? And I think we just believed in it, and, had been around, again, people and relationships for long enough to feel like this was a really unique way for people to explore finding love. And it's proven to be that, beyond our wildest dreams.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want each of you to please give one really tantalizing tease about season 5. Allie, you're up.
Oh man, can't Chris go first?
Okay, Chris can go first.
Season 5 is our best season ever. Hands down. It is the most, I love this season. It is wildly unpredictable. It's unlike anything that anybody who's watched Love is Blind, unlike anything that you've seen. It is, it has everything that you could want. It has things that you don't know you want. And so it truly is. It's our best season to date. I'm really proud of it, and I'm so excited for people to see it. And by the way, I love every season we've done so far. So it's really good.
Yes, I second that. I think it has more firsts and more twists and turns than any season. There are more things that you cannot believe happened than we've ever had in any previous season. It's fantastic.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much to both of you, and to all of you tuning in for joining this special PaleyFest Fall TV preview conversation with Netflix's Love is Blind. And thanks once again to Citi for their support. The new season of Love is Blind premieres Friday, September 22nd, with new episodes dropping every Friday through October 13th. You can enjoy more of these Paley programs by clicking the subscribe button below. Thanks, everyone.